we want to keep answering the question on how to produce food for everyone without compromising our future generations and also our generation, right? So meaning that making farmers much more sustainable in terms of environment, financial, etc. And as for the, as mentioned by Bayu, right, making farming great again, so that everyone, we don't have to worry about who would be the next generation of farmers, etc. So we want to promote that farming can be a really good source of income. It's also a job that is taking care of the land and its properties and also the balance of the ecosystem. So it's beyond money. So I think that's something that we want to achieve. And if I may cite from the Tesla motto, we are accelerating transition, as Tesla say, for the world towards a more sustainable energy. But in our case, we are accelerating transition for the world into more sustainable farming and agriculture industry. So I think that's the thing that we want to be known for in the industry.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to On Call with Insignia, where we go on call with leaders innovating the future of Southeast Asia's internet and digital economy, or as we like to call it, ASEAN Innovation. I'm your host, Paulo Aquino. And in today's call, we'll be traveling back to Indonesia and exploring the agriculture space in the country and continuing our conversation with our two guests here today. To recap, it's their first time on the show. It's our first time really talking about this company on the show because it's a recent company that Insignia Ventures has partnered with, and really privileged to be partnered with these founders and with this team, and really seeing how they've been really innovating in Indonesia's agricultural space. So we have none other than Febi Agil Ifdillah, co-founder and CTO of Elevarm, and with him we have Bayu Persada, who is the Chief Product Officer at Elevarm as well. Our conversation with these two tech leaders continues as they share more about what it takes to digitalize Indonesia's agriculture industry sustainably. This time focusing on what kind of organization they need to build and leaders they need to be to truly accelerate the shift towards the future of farming and food Elevarm envisions. Let's dive into the call. Yeah, I wanted to move into, because we have a lot of listeners out here who are not from Indonesia, and myself going through the impact report. It was, as I mentioned earlier, a learning experience. And I highly recommend folks who are not from the country or have no experience in agriculture whatsoever to actually check out the report. And I think it's, regardless of the impact itself, I think it's just a good starting point to actually learn about the space. So for each of you, maybe you can mention what is the biggest misconception that you think industry outsiders have when it comes to understanding the space and what it takes to drive innovation in this space. Febi, you can go first.
Sure. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that I've said the industry outsiders, right, people that are interested in the agriculture industry have when it comes to this sector in general, or when it comes to introducing innovation in Indonesia's agriculture upstream, is that can be done quickly, right, and also in a uniform manner. But in reality, introducing innovation and advancement in terms of technology in the agriculture industry is a complex process, right? That requires a deep understanding of the local context, right? The needs of stakeholders, of course, farmers at the center of our value, right? And the cultural and social factors that shape the industry in general. Because in the digital agriculture industry is highly fragmented, right? Millions of farmers spread over various regions and geographies. And as a result, introducing innovation into power requires a nuanced approach or tailored approach, very hyperlocal, right? That recognizes the diversity of the industry and the needs of the stakeholders, various stakeholders are also very unique, right? So it makes it challenging, but also highly rewarding. But I think that's the basic idea in the first place as to why we also put out the impact report, right? Because we want to look back from when we started, what have we done in the past 15 months? But I think the results are encouraging. I think we're on the right track with more grit and more time. I think we can create more strides in this sector in general. So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, I believe.
If you're working in a space, you need to be committed to what you're doing and
Yeah.
going for the long haul. Bayu, yeah, for you, what's the big misconception that you've been seeing? And especially for you, since you come from
Yeah,
you've explored different
yeah.
sectors, right? Yeah.
Hey, I would say the funny part is that there's a notion that when you're building agritech, then you have to build the farmer's app, right? The agritech builds the farmer's app, and that's it, right? So I think that's why I would say the biggest misconception is that agritech equals to farmer's app. Right? The fact that what we have experienced in the sector is that the agriculture is very complex industries. I would say the most complex industry I've ever been in. This is coming from a person who've been quite adventurous in their career, tasting a lot of industries, right? This agriculture sector, especially on the tech part, is still far from being saturated. Even in Indonesia, I would say the state is still developing and so much to achieve, I would say. That means that the complex, this complex industry requires not just fully focus on being digital, but actually the combination approach between digital and also in-person approach. This in-person approach is equally important to the digital part. What is the in-person? Because we're talking about science, we're talking about dealing with farmers with different demography, with different needs, different cultures. We're talking with different market, different traders. We cannot deem that as a mere profile on our right. So we have to know in person. We have to understand the context so we can empower them effectively with the digitalization. So yeah, so I would say fully digitize the agriculture is impossible. So that's why we need to combine the approach between offline and online and take a balance between these two.
I think we have the title for our episode already. Farmer digitalization does not mean building a farmer app. Yeah. Eventually you want to get to that point, but obviously it's not like the first step per se. And I think that's really a through line or something that you
Yeah,
are
true.
emphasizing in
Yeah.
this
Mhm.
conversation. And
Yeah.
speaking of the long term, I think Bayu, you mentioned that the market is still very early, still far from being saturated. But I think if you guys are doing your work well, then eventually it will become there. Eventually there will become more players in the space, and that's actually a good thing. So, what for you, from your perspective, will make Elevarm continue to stand out as the market progresses and matures in the long term? And how do you see Elevarm, say, like maybe even 20, 30 years from now? If you guys are
Mm.
still working in the space, like how would you see Elevarm being referred to or being remembered, being looked at?
I think the strength of what we do is not just we're very committed and very focused in what we do, not just like I mentioned, be agnostic, being opportunistic in the market because we're being opportunistic and we it means that we don't focus on certain so we just like shifting from left to right. So we're very committed, very focused on what we do. We cover very upstream focused operation that means end to end from the beginning to the end. We're working closely with the farmers. We're very convinced with our models because right now I wouldn't say fully proven, but I think we're getting to that state in shorter time, right? So to really fully prove our models, yeah. So I think the closeness working with the farmers, not just looking by the data remotely in the headquarters. So even the tech team right now is frequently moving around the operational area so that they empathize in what they built. So they're not just hearing from the reports from the ops team, oh, okay, they need that. Okay, we code that and then ship it. No, they need to go down, talk with the farmers, engage with them, visit their lands, get your hands dirty with with what they do, so that you can build very fitting solution for them. So I think that's what makes LLM quite different, at least what we have seen in the market right now. Not just that, but also we're very, I would say, cost conscious. We're very meticulous in spending every rupiah in one particular area, make sure the ROI is good, it's impactful as well, it's sustainable as well, it's scalable as well. A lot of factors. So it doesn't mean that we we're quite rigid company. No, we're not rigid. We're actually very dynamic, very flexible. But the intelligence, the experience, combining both tech, business, science, and operations makes our, I would say, business is quite structured. And I wouldn't say the best in the area. No, I think we're on the track for profitability.
Yeah, and focus and profitability are very strongly related. If you're focused on what really is bringing in the money for the business, then more likely than not, you're on the right track. And for Febi, I wanted for you to tackle the second part of my question earlier, which is like 20, 30 years from now, what will Elevarm be known for? And by that time, hopefully there will be a booming agritech industry across the value chain, right? And what will Elevarm be known for?
That's interesting question, Folo. Actually, 20 years, 30 years from now, right? So, yeah, we've always believed that agriculture should be more transparent. There's no information asymmetry, right? So farmers who basically done most of the jobs, right? Starting from planning, budgeting, and then they also have to do all of the farming jobs, putting harvesting. But now they receive less than the other stakeholders, let's say the traders, right? Honestly, an industry that's more fair, people who done most of the jobs could also receive more reward in terms of that. And I want to also see that agriculture industry to be much more sustainable, and of course, financially for the farmers, right? But also for the environment, because now agriculture is one of the biggest contributors to the greenhouse gas emission, right? It is a serious issue because if there's no change in the way we do farming, then we'll keep producing even more bad gases to the air. And then the earth that we live in would be not possible to be a place where we can do other things as well, including living, right, etc. So I think agriculture connects to lots of aspects of our life. It's where our food comes, and it's also ironically where most of the bad gases also come from, right? So we need to really take care of that. So, and Alabama as a company, we want to be seen as a company that promotes good agricultural practices, improving farmers' livelihood and welfare, while also contributing positively to the ecosystem, to the environment. So maybe the one line for that is that we want to keep answering the question on how to produce food for everyone without compromising our future generations and also our generation, right? So meaning that making farmers much more sustainable in terms of environment, financial, etc. And as for the, as mentioned by Ms. Bayu, right, making farming great again, so that everyone, we don't have to worry about who would be the next generation of farmers, etc. So we want to promote that farming can be a really good source of income. It's also a job that is really, it's taking care of the land and its properties and also the balance of the ecosystem. So it's beyond money. So I think that's something that we want to achieve. And if I may cite from the Tesla motto, we are accelerating transition, as Tesla say, for the world towards a more sustainable energy. But in our case, we are accelerating transition for the world into a more sustainable farming and agriculture industry. So I think that's the thing that we want to be known for in the industry.
Yeah, really beyond farming itself, even just like the future of food and the way that like even how Indonesians will be eating in the future, I think there's definitely
Yeah.
I see a domino effect there. And I guess 20 years from now, let's get back and see how things are. But in the meantime,
Yes.
before we head into our next corner for this call, I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about yourselves as leaders, since you're both not just engineers and product managers, but actually leading teams within Elevarm. So yeah, I wanted for you guys to share with our listeners like how you've had to mature yourself as leaders in your respective roles since joining or starting Elevarm.
Yeah, I think When you're perceived as a tech leader in an agriculture company, you need to make sure that people do not see you as the only tech guys, right? Because tech is the foundation and the catalyst of the whole operational in our business, right? So you need to get your hands dirty in everything, including you need to understand the farming operation. You need to understand how the dealers or the buyers supply from the taking the supply from the farmers and then sourcing to the white market, for example. You need to understand the end-to-end supply chains. You don't see things from your laptop only. You need to go to the lands. You need to talk to them. You need to empathize with what which you engage with them personally, so you really understand, right? What are the problems? What are the challenges, and how you can help address them? I always say to the team, right? The tech team is not just the app builders or problem solvers. We love to deal with problems. Any problem that you have, anything from operations, from agronomists, you can talk to us. Probably we're not the expert of being the science guy, agriculture and such, but we can still be a proxy of ideal solutions, right? We can aggregate resources, we can facilitate discussions in order to make scalable solutions. I would say being a tech leaders in agriculture, meaning you have to be king of the tech, but jack. No, if we talk about the cars, right? Jack of all trades, but king of some, I would say. So we need to be the jack of everything that was running in the company, not just the operations, the I would say the logistics, the science, the academic part, all things. We can advise better and we can engage better internally and also within the ecosystem.
Yeah,
I think that's
no, I really like the one-liners that you're dropping here. Not just to be the king of whatever expertise you're in, but also have a understanding of everything else that's happening operationally across the business. I think it's a important lesson, not just for agritech, but any business, for tech leaders in any business. Yeah, Febi, for yourself, anything to add? What for you has been the lesson in terms of how you've evolved as a leader so far?
For me, the key highlights that transitioning into a more specialized leader in terms of tech. Actually, my title was CTO of the company, but back in the day, I always found myself also doing consulting to Kokotani, visiting farmers, and also doing a lot of things, including finance, etc. But now that we have dedicated people doing their particular job, now it has been a transitioning period for me personally to evolve and mature as a leader since starting the company. So now I have to develop a necessary leadership and management skills to effectively guide the team's technical execution in terms of software engineering, while also maintaining the strategic vision for the business, right? And also my my evolution as leader started at day one has been delegation, right? As I mentioned, because now we have specific people doing the kind of job, but now the job is more into the black magic of scaling the organization. How can we make sure that the people within our organization is communicating, the line of communication is clear, they know what they're doing, and now I was transitioning into. At the time, I was the player. Now maybe I was the captain, or in a couple of months, I'll be transitioning into the coach or maybe the owner of the club of the football, maybe someday. That's kind of thing that I'm juggling as of now, transitioning into different roles.
Yeah, no, I think that's something that, yeah, in a previous panel, I think Hendra from Faz also talked about. He used that, Hendra and Steve
Yeah.
also, yeah, they like to use that football analogy of transitioning
Yes.
from captain to like owner of the club. All right, that leads me into our next corner, which is our Minute Masterclass. So yeah, really interested to hear from Febi and Bayu on this. If you guys were to give a masterclass, and I think we've touched on several points about this already, but if you were to summarize, if you were to give a masterclass on commercializing technology-based innovation solutions for farmers in Indonesia to other entrepreneurs, operators globally, what would be the one key takeaway you would have for that class if you were to summarize it in one idea or one line even?
I think you have to pick one liner, right? I think I already mentioned this. You need to keep your hands dirty and keep your feet on the ground. So even though that you're thinking, hey, I'm a tech guy, I know more than you do, right? But the actual fact, the farmers, all the traders, all the ecosystems are already growing without your intervention before. So we do not put our ego in front of these ecosystems. So we're still progressing with humility, curiosity, with all this combination between humility and curiosity, I would say that will take far in this space. As I mentioned, agriculture is a very complex, untapped, mostly untapped opportunities side. So if we progress with ego, with the feeling that we know more, we know much than everybody else, that we will go nowhere.
Keep your hands dirty and feet on the ground. Great one liner. Febi, what's your one line takeaway for the class?
I think it's been touched several times during our conversation. And it's also related to the misconception in the industry, right? So I think if I were to, one key takeaway after several years in industry is that innovation in the agriculture industry, especially technology by itself, is not the only solution to the factor. The two part, right? Agri and technology. Technology plays a critical role in introducing innovation. It is by no means a silver bullet. Introduction of technology solutions must be paired with capacity building activities, including training, advisory services, financial support, and others to ensure that farmers can use the technology effectively and sustainably. The overall key to introducing innovation, commercializing the technology, especially in agri in Indonesia, it requires deep understanding of the local context, nuanced approach, and commitment to capacity building. So I think by recognizing these factors, we can effectively invest in and support the growth of Indonesian agriculture in a more sustainable manner.
Yeah, don't forget about the agri part and don't just focus on the tech part of agri-tech. Yeah, I think those two liners really summarize our discussion so far. And yeah, it's a great way to wrap things up. And now let's move on into our rapid fire round, the fun part of our calls, as I like to call it. So just some casual questions and for our listeners to better get to know you as people. And yeah, just short and sweet answers will do. So first is, what is a superpower of each other? So Febi was a superpower of Bayu, and Bayu was a superpower of Febi that you would want to have.
I can go first, right?
Yeah.
What I admire from him is that, I mean, his capability of structuring things. Yeah, that's his superpower. And in the industry that's really chaotic, like agriculture, I think it's really needed.
Yeah, yeah. I can definitely see that from Bayu's answers. Bayu, how about you?
Yeah, I think I admire his humility on this part. I think it's the most techy guys in the company, but he doesn't have any difficulties sitting on the ground in equal manner with farmers and everything. Like he, he is an example of a tech leaders in agri-tech, actually.
Mm.
So not just focusing again on the tactical, on the coding part, but also empathizing with the ecosystem and so on.
Yeah. I think I heard somewhere that one great way to do DD on agritech is to ask the farm if they love the founders.
Yeah,
And I'm sure they love you guys. What technology are you most excited about today, apart from what you're building at Elevarm?
Large language models all around. So I
Yeah.
think that's really cool.
Yeah. And maybe in the not so near, not so far future, maybe even applicable because you're getting all these data through Elevarm. So would be interesting to see how that develops. Bayou for you.
Yeah, I might be biased, right? Because I'm a fan of Steve's job. But looking
Mm,
at the Vision Pro lately,
mm,
I was
right,
always
right.
wondering like how we can integrate this great product into agritech. So like how we can capitalize the Vision Pro decisions to to the ground basic farming operation. Like farming operations tends to perceive as a dirty, as a manual, as not very appealing, I would say, operation or processes. But if how about integrated Vision Pro all the sophisticated functions models into this particular industry. That would be interesting.
Yeah. I think it would be really exciting to see like simulations done on Vision Pro, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But that's yeah, I can see how that can be really complicated with like weather patterns and crop cycles and all that. Yeah, super. That's really exciting to look forward to. If you were to be invited to produce or develop your own Netflix or OT series, like what would be the title of your show? And what would it be about? Briefly.
That is a very tough question. Never thought of it. What is it? Does it have to be related to
It doesn't
me
have to
or
be
is it?
related to you or to Elevarm. Just something
Oh,
that
okay.
you would wanna make show.
Okay. Again, I'm not biased, right? But I love football, like, and my
Mm.
favorite team is Juventus. Actually,
Oh,
I want to. Anyways, they're not so good anymore. But I'd love to see the documentary of like a youth players
mm,
that become a world class players within the internet ecosystem. Like they groom players from the very little
young age.
child at the young age to this very mature and then solid players. Yeah,
Yeah, actually,
it's not related.
yeah, it might actually be on Netflix already. I don't know. Maybe there's like a
Oh,
in
maybe,
a
maybe.
different in a different country. Yeah, yeah. Maybe how about you?
But I think believer in randomness, right? Or
Mm,
some people might call it luck
mhm.
or something. But I believe there are some random, there's so much blender, some randomness to some degree in our lives, right? So I'd say I want to highlight that what happens in our lives is sometimes beyond our control, right? There's something bigger outside of what we do every day, and that's randomness. So I would say maybe serendipity, engineering serendipity, and
Mhm.
also the role of randomness in our lives would be a good theme for a movie.
Yeah,
Meaning
yeah.
that maybe we're looking back on big moments in our life, right? We would likely realize serendipity or maybe randomness played more of a role than we might think. We might look for something, but at the end of the day, we might find something else or even something better finally. So that's the beauty of life as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, very philosophical. And I think actually it might be an interesting series to get like entrepreneur moments of serendipity. 'Cause I think there's lots of those around. And looking back now, what is a skill, could be a soft skill or a hard skill that you believe you should have learned back in your time as a student?
I miss a lot of things in my youth in my college time. Probably with not so maybe it's fair reasons compared to me like long way back, right? But I didn't regret anything actually. So
Mm.
just part of to shaping to who I am today. If I have to reminisce the youth, I would say I think that probably I have to spend more times together and in the communities or groups that is working on something useful, not just having fun all the time, right? So that was what I used to do actually, having fun, you know. But looking back, I think look some things for me I learned late in life. And some important things that I learned very recently. I wouldn't disclose much. I cannot help but think it would have been so much better if I have learned these things way back so that I can prepare more in that particular circumstances. If it's just, I think my advice to many university students, if I may, yeah, Paulo,
Yeah, yeah.
so
Go ahead, go ahead.
a bit of advice: have fun. It's good, but getting in a group where you can do something, the experiments, something useful for the community is also beneficial for you moving forward. So yeah, it's like a balance between that.
So Febi's experiences, basically, I think. Because I think Febi was already doing a lot of these things when you were in uni, right? How about you, Febi? What's a skill that you
Yeah,
would have wanted to learn as a student?
as student, I actually spend most of my time juggling between learning and also working. So I didn't get a chance to really, I think it's quite similar with much value, right? Really
Mm,
connect with people, but not on a fun manner, but I think connecting in a deep way. And and creating something together much more, meaningful, right? So I think that's what I should learn: socializing with people, connecting with people, that kind of stuff. That's for hard skill. I believe the next big thing is biology. Biology will eat the world. Then I wish I could, I wish I spend more time learning about biology, because I think the next big thing in the next couple of decades will be biology. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I should bring Lintang the next time we have Elevarm on the show to talk about that. But yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
interesting. I think we saw the A16Z like article on that. Biology will eat the world. So really interesting. If there's something that you could automate in your job just by wishing for it, what aspect of your role would that be?
That would be translating my minds into more structured document.
Uh,
I have so much in my mind. I already structured in my mind. But if there is like one tool, so it's just putting a cable on top of my head and then connecting to the computer. The computer already can map everything in my head into this particular document in Figma or in Google Doc or everything. That will be so much
yeah.
greater, because usually I have more time to think, but less time to translate the thought into more
Right.
readable documents.
Yeah. I think Vision Pro 2.0. I think that's the that's the
Maybe,
next
maybe.
that's the next
Apple, please
iteration.
hire me.
How about you, Febi?
Now that you mentioned it, now I want that too, because most of my time now is, I spend most of my time writing something,
Mm,
jotting into my notebook, etc. That eating up a lot of my time as well. Now I think we're closer to that with GPT and
yeah, yeah.
also the other aspects for helping to improve our productivity better. Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same, more or less.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a convergence with the hardware and the software with regards to this. If you could pick anyone else, anyone alive or dead, to be your 24/7 executive coach or leadership coach, who would it be and why? I think maybe I
Mm.
know Bayu's answer already, but Febi, how about?
Yeah, mine would be Satya Nadella. Really, is
I'm good. Microsoft.
done
Yeah.
a good job in reviving Microsoft so in the past couple of years. So I really admire him for that.
How about you?
A company.
Yeah. How about you, Bayu?
Can we bring Steve Jobs back to
Yeah,
life?
I knew it was Steve Jobs.
Or
That was
if you can, I think I love Adam Grant's work. It's just,
Adam Grant again.
if he tweets, basically his Instagram post is just reflected on his tweets, right? So every tweet hits the core. Oh my God. I miss this. I think it's this eye-opening, thought-triggering words from him. So if I could, for example, him as a, like you said, like a mentor, like 24/7 mentors, I just want to connect the cable between my mind, his mind, transfer
Yeah.
everything into my mind.
I think that's possible
Yeah.
with GPT now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've seen all those prompts like respond like Steve Jobs or something like that. um, all right. If there's no issue about budget, where would you want your team to have a company offsite? Like if there's no
Company upside also working, right? Or is it for have fun?
50/50 or for team building lah, yeah, let's just say.
I say. I'm always curious about Bayu. Guess we'll talk about it in the management meeting as well. Because Banyuwangi holds a lot of potential, like even bigger than West Java and Central Java combined. So I really wanted to visit there, talk with farmers there, and see how can we build close ecosystem and to expand our market there.
Right. Yeah, definitely a new like an untapped market in Indonesia. How about you, Bayo?
Maybe that's too small, but too shallow. If I wanted to locate, I think Turkey would be a good place to start, because I think many factors. I think Japan is a bit never boring destination, so you can always find excitement every side of Japan with all the four seasons, all the historical places and everything. But also on the agriculture, they're one of the most, I would say, developed countries with all the tags, all the IoT, all the investments of the analytics, algorithms, recommendation, everything. So it would be great to just put our office there, and then we really learn from the experts.
Not just the
brains.
offsite anymore, just put the office.
Yeah. Not just being fun and work can come together.
Interestingly enough, I just had a call with another of our founders from Vietnam who said the exact same thing. He's not in the agriculture space. He also talked about Japan and almost similar reasons. So that's interesting. And finally, to wrap up this quarter, anything that you've read recently that you'd like to recommend to our listeners, or any go-to book that you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
For me, I recently read this book called Fooled by Randomness by
Oh, that's why you said
Nassim.
you talked about
Yeah.
randomness a while ago. Okay.
Yeah. It's fairly obvious, right? Everything is sometimes random, but the reading that book, it's I believe, I guess it's an eye-opening book to emphasize that a lot of things in the world, most of the times, it's not about it. So I think that's really an interesting book. And another thing, another book that I read every day is The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. This is an interesting book because it has 365 chapters, I believe. So that's a small passage every day that you can read about how to become more stoic in your life. Focus on what you can control and let go of other things that you cannot control, etc. And I think that's really helped me, it kept me safe during building a company and many other things that we should juggle every day. That's really an interesting book.
How about you? How about you, Bayu?
Yeah, I think you could guess, I guess. So it's thing again from random, correct? I would say there's one, I would say motivation book or leadership book or soul enlightening book that you could read once in your life. That would be good. Because it conveys everything you need to know to become a leader, to become an excellent communicator, to become a confident speaker, to become a useful part or activity of the society. That's a lot of benefits that you can read from the book and you can easily apply in your daily lives. Hopefully, very practical, easily applicable.
On that note, I'd like to thank you, Febi and Bayu, for coming on the show and sharing all of these, like really introducing us to Elevarm, introducing us to Indonesian agriculture, the challenges, and how to really think about digitalization for farmers in a more sustainable way. And for those who are interested in learning more, highly suggest checking out the impact report, as I mentioned earlier, or in the previous episode. You can check it out in the links in the podcast description. And in the meantime, excited to see more milestones hit by Elevarm, and hopefully we get to have you or other leaders of Elevarm back on the show.
Thank you, Balu.
Yeah.
Thank you, Balu, so much.